Sending data activity to Fragment. Hello to everyone. So in this video, we will learn how to send data from an activity to a fragment, which was in the second section of the data transformation between screens. So in this video, we won't deal with fragments in detail. We will deal with the topic of fragments in the third section of this particular chapter. So in this video, we'll just learn how to send data from activity to fragment. So a fragment is a component that basically helps users work flexibly while developing your Android applications. So because of that, we deal with it in the third section of the course. In that video, we will create a new fragment, and then we will send data from activity to fragment. And then last up in that sequence, we will get that sent data in the fragment and show it to the user. All right, so that process is basically better demonstrated with an example application. So let's move on over to Android Studio. So I created a new project for this video. If you want to, you can use your previous project. First up, I want to show you the finished version of the application. So in this video, we will develop an application which will display the ratio between height and weight. Calculation of the height-weight ratio is also called BMI. BMI stands for body mass index. So let's say the users will enter weight as kilograms and height as centimeters. And then, after clicking the calculate button, the body mass index of the user will be indeed calculated. And then if the BMI is higher than 25, that means that the person is overweight and they'll rethink their lifestyle choices, I guess. But in any event, we will develop the most simple type of this kind of application because these values can be different for women and for men, for young and for old. I just want to get the learning done and so that you get the point. So in here, to be able to get more precise values, that means we've got to get some other data from the users. It's not necessarily important for us to focus on that in this video because by adding more components in here, of course, you'll get more data from your users. The important thing here is we get information from activity and write the results in Fragment, okay? So let's send the received data to the Fragment, and then we will process this data and show all of that to the user. All right, so let's try the application first. I'll write 90 in for weight and 175 for height. After clicking the calculate button, we'll see the BMI is 29. Now, because BMI is higher than 25 in here, it means, well, I'm just making these numbers up, right? The user is overweight. So as you can see here in this section, we see the result. It's a fragment, which has this title of My First Fragment. I sent data to the fragment by clicking the calculate button. So here you might be wondering, well, couldn't I just do this process without using a fragment? Yeah, of course you can. We could have just one text view here and write the result in it. But here we basically see the simple usage of a fragment. What we'll see in the future is how important the fragment becomes as you build more complex applications. It has so many advantages in the process of developing these applications that you're going to thank me later on. So at this stage, we made this process just to see this data transformation, right? So in the future, you can use that information in your bigger projects. In fact, you can start right now. Let's start to develop the application. So first, I will add 2 edit texts under linear layout. These edit texts must be number edit text because the user will be entering numbers here, right? And if we look at the application, we must add a button in here. Now to show the title, I'll add a text view. And I'll add one more text view to show the explanation under the button. And for the last, I will add a frame layout to the bottom to add fragment. I will show fragment inside that frame layout. So let's go ahead and customize that design. So first I'll write BMI calculator at the very top text views text. Then I'll change the color of my font. Increase the font size. Now to center the text, I'll make the gravity value of the text view center. And then let's customize the edit text where we enter data. So in here, I will add a hint to edit text so that the user will know which data you got to enter. So as a hint, I'll write, please enter your weight. And for the second edit text hint section, I'll write, please enter your height. Then I'll write calculate as my button text. Now for the explanation text view, I'll write if BMI is bigger than 25, it is considered overweight. No judgment here. So then I'll just make the width of the edit text, 300 dp. And I'll make the button's width wrap content. Now let's center the explanation text. And I'll select all components by just long clicking on the control key. And to put some space between them, I'll adjust 20 dp to the layout margin top. All right, so this section's design is complete. Now, because the result showing section is a fragment, we'll design that later. So let's create the fragment. First, I'll select App Folder. Then from the menu, I'll select File, New Fragment, and Blank Fragment. Now I got to name this fragment. So my name will be My First Fragment. And then I'll click the Finish button. Okay, so there you have it. Android Studio has now created a new fragment. So fragment is similar to activity. Like in activity, fragment also has two sections, which are a design section and a Java code writing section. So now let's design the fragment similar to that in the application that I demoed earlier. So I will pass the XML section of fragment. I'll delete the frame layout and write linear layout. I'll make a vertical value of orientation. Then I will change the background color of the linear layout so that the difference to the fragment will, well, be easier to spot. Okay, so now I'll change the text view's text to be my first fragment. And I'll do this so that it appears to be a fragment. Now, you don't have to show the user that you've used a fragment, of course. I'm just showing you. It doesn't concern them. The user concern is about comfort and good-looking design, right? That's all. That's what UI is about. So let's increase the font size of text view, and yeah, that makes it more noticeable. To center the text, I'll adjust the value of gravity to be center, and the value of height to be wrap content. I'll add one more text view under that text view to write the result on it. And I'll adjust the color of text views to be black. I'll adjust bottom text views width, wrap content. And I'll make the gravity value of the linear layout to be center horizontal, so that text view can be centered. All right, so let's put some more space between text views. I'll adjust the value of the layout margin top to be 20 dp. And give an ID to this text view. I'll write text view result for its ID name. And lastly, I'll delete this text inside text view. The text view won't be seen until the result is written, right? Okay, so the design of the fragment is ready. Let's move on over to Java. So at first, I pass main activity. And before going on, we've got to give ID to components in main activity. So I'll write edit text weight to the ID of the edit text. I'll write edit text height to the second ID. And I'll write button calculate to the ID of button. Now I've also got to give an ID to the frame layout because I will use it in Java to show a fragment. So I'll write frame to its ID. All right, so now we can start to write Java code. At first, I'll define edit text. Then I define bottom. Then inside onCreate method, I'll create an object from class of the Fragment Manager. And I can write Fragment Manager. Fragment Manager equals get support Fragment Manager. Then I create an object from the class of Fragment Transaction. So I'll write Fragment Transaction. Fragment Transaction equals Fragment Manager dot begin transaction. So I've got to do all of this just to be able to work a transaction. Good. Okay, so then I'll create an object from the class of my first fragment. And I'll write my first fragment equals new my first fragment. And now we can match components with their ID. So I'll write weight equals find view by ID, r dot ID dot edit text weight. And just like that, I match the other components as well. Then I can add a click listener to the calculate button. And now it's time to get some data. So to get that data, which the users entered, I will use the method bundle. And for that to happen, I'll create an object from class bundle. And I'll write bundle. Bundle equals new bundle. So the bundle method is used for data transformation, right? So to be able to send data, first we've got to add data to integer containers. So after I write int user weight equals weight.getText.toString, I've got to change that to integer. So I can write integer.valueOf and enclose them all in parentheses. And I'll do the same thing for the height value. So now I can send all this data to Fragment by using the bundle method. So I'll write bundle.putInt. So the method of putInt will take two parameters. First one is keyword. I'll write weight as the keyword. Second parameter is data to send. So in here, it's going to be user weight. So if you want to send string data, you can use method of putString. I will send user height with the same process. Then I'll define where to send it. And I'll send data to Fragment, whose name is myFirstFragment. So that's why I use the object that I created from its class. So I'll write the object of my first fragment. Then with dot, I can add setArguments as a method. So the setArguments method takes the method of bundle as a parameter. And that way, all the data will go to the fragment. And then by using the object of the fragment transaction, we work the fragment which we created. So in other words, when the user clicks on the Calculate button, the fragment must be shown in frame layout, which is why I write fragment transaction.add, right? So that add method takes two parameters. First one, we've got to define the layout where the fragment will be shown. So what do I write here? r.id.frame. In that way, we define the frame layout. The second parameter is the name of the object, which we created from the class of my first fragment, right? And that is my first fragment. That's why I like being clear. Component in here with frame ID is a frame layout to show the fragment in it. So lastly, I will write fragment transaction.commit. And then that way, after the user clicks the Calculate button, data will be gotten from the user. It'll be sent to Fragment with the bundle method, and the fragment will be shown inside the frame layout. And then all of these processes of data processing and the results are showing in the fragment, and they will occur inside the fragment itself.